Hi guys, I'm back for another Nerd Rants video, and today we will be discussing a show I just finished watching about a week or two ago called Titans. I know this is technically still in the Arrowverse universe, while also not. They become a thing when they respark the universe in Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they kind of do a flash through the new multiverse and they show the Titans. So I guess it's still technically connected to the Arrowverse, but not really. So anyway, this when I saw trailers and pictures and whatever else for this when it first came out, I wasn't I wasn't interested, and I didn't think it was going to be very good because I they did some of the characters a bit dirty. Just gonna say it. I didn't really like anything about the Tamaranians. It didn't feel like Starfire, first of all. Like her power was, I know it was fire, which I know fire's in her name, but I like it. I prefer the original, like she has star bolts basically, where it's just the green, I don't know what you would call them, lasers, orbs, whatever you call those. I prefer that because it's more original and creative than just fire powers, which is what they give her in this. So that was a little bit in my opinion. And then on top of it, they made her black. Now, nothing against black people. This isn't a race thing. It's just they took the black character on the Teen Titans team and they took him out of the show entirely, which I know it's probably something to do with the fact that I think Warner Bros. Owns Cyborg, and I don't know how Arrowverse shows work with the actual, like, DC universe, so maybe that's why they took him out. But they chose to take one of the other characters that is a different race and is a different thing and change her into this, like, earthly race. They made her look too human, I guess. And I love the orange skin. I love the orange skin. And it's really annoying to me because it's really funny that they made her black, because actually it's like they do make her black because diversity and we need to do this, and then they proceed to whitewash every other character. On the original not Young Justice, wrong show, Teen Titans team, there is one white character in, like, the core Titans team, and that is Robin. Beast Boy is green. Raven is like a demon princess, so she's basically got white skin. So she's not technically Caucasian white. She's like white. And then Starfire, and obviously Cyborg's black, and Starfire is orange. So the only actually, like, white person on the entire team is Robin. And they changed the cast so that now not only is Robin white, but so is Beast Boy, and so is Raven, or Rachel as they call her in that series. And so basically they whitewash the team more than it already is and make it less diverse than it was, which makes no sense to me. And I get that maybe budget-wise it was easier for them to just make make Starfire black and make that the defining color of the Tamaranian skin than painting them orange, but you literally just have to paint them orange. It's not that hard, and I feel like of all of the makeup things they could have done, it has to be one of the least expensive to just paint a person orange. So that annoyed me, just the appearance of the actual physical appearances of the team was a little annoying, except Robin. He pretty much looked like Robin. And then the age difference was a little weird. I get that it's a different universe, so it's different versions of the team, but it took a little getting used to that we have Beast Boy and Raven as teenagers, and then we have Starfire and Robin as adults. It took a little getting used to. It was a little strange at first. I do kind of like the big brother aspect between the sibling relationship between Robin and Raven, and him being the protective big brother, because I love the protective big brother characters. I really do. So I did kind of like some of the dynamics between them, and yeah, they, besides some not so good writing, the characters were pretty solid. Starfire honestly was my least favorite. Just her entire character, I didn't like it, and it wasn't Starfire, and I didn't like Starfire at all. But yeah, the other ones were pretty solid. I feel like the way they play the trailers off is basically they're focusing on the four that are the Titans that we know, Beast Boy, Raven, Robin, and Starfire, and they kind of, they play it off as those are the main characters, those are the ones we're focusing on, and that's kind of what you expect coming from a live action version of Teen Titans, but that's not what we got. Honestly, they focused more on, like, in that universe, the original Titans team, with Hawk and Dove and Wonder Girl, and then Robin. And they focus more on them and their story than they do on these new Titans. And it's a little disappointing that we don't really get to explore these new team members as much as, honestly, I thought we would. Because they're interesting characters and they set up backstories for them, but they don't really get into their characters so much, which is part of the reason some of their characters fall flat, because they don't give enough to the characters, and so yeah. And then the formatting of this series was a little bit weird, because they would introduce this plot point in one episode and they'd lead up to it, and then they'd have this cliffhanger, and then they'd have an entire episode that's a flashback, and suddenly we're like 15 years in the past, and then right after that episode we go back to the present and we catch up to the cliffhanger and go through that. Or in the second season, we have one the episode leading up and to this huge cliffhanger, and then we go back to do the backstory of this new character we're about to introduce, and then we go in and then we tie it into the cliffhanger and how they get involved, which it's okay. It's just a little bit of a confusing format, and you're just constantly jumping back and forth. And I understand having flashbacks, but I don't know if they necessarily needed entire episodes dedicated to the flashbacks. If they could just, because one of the flashbacks, yes, the entire episode was necessary because it was the story of this character that died and them explaining that, which was very necessary to the plot. So that one was fine. But some of the other ones, I feel like they could have explained in flashbacks between the past and the present and shortened it so there wasn't as much like fluff happening. So some of it was unnecessary, like they made the flashbacks too long and we had some unnecessary stuff happening so that they could fill the entire 40-minute episode that they needed for the flashback. But yeah, it was fine. A little bit of a confusing format, but it still worked okay. The the villains. The villains in this series were kind of disappointing. So instead of leading up to Trigon in all of these seasons and getting to that as this huge, basically finale, kind of what they do in the original animated series, where they have like season 4, I think, is when he comes in and they have to fight him because he's this massive, huge, big bad guy. And in Titans, they lead up to him, they're referencing him, and they go straight into it with Trigon as the big bad of the first season, and they're leading up to it, and they're kind of, you get foreshadowing, and we all of us who have seen Teen Titans, like, we have these expectations for what Trigon's gonna be because we've seen Trigon. We have this huge expectations for him, and then he appears at the second to last, third to end of the third to last episode of the first season is when Raven brings him through the doorway back into our world. And he's just a guy. And I get that it's not his true form, and he's basically taking a form that she'll accept more, but he's just a guy. Then he plays mind games on the team, which again is like the OG Titans more than the new Titans. The mind games are kind of fun. They have an entire episode dedicated to that happening on Robin exclusively, which, I mean, it was a cool episode. But I'm sitting there like, what the heck is happening? And then at the end, like, oh, that's what's happening. So again, and then the other team, so we get an entire episode dedicated to what happens in his brain and how he goes through these mind games. And then for every other person every other team member that shows up in then the next episode, we get like 30 seconds that explains how he wins the mind games. And it's disappointing. Like Hank and Hawk and Doves, Hank and Dawn's, whatever, theirs are really disappointing. Like, the whole mind games are trying to get them to accept their darkness. And so we have, like, some of them are killing people. Most of them are killing people. And then, like, accepting their darkness, like, becoming murderers. And then with them, it's literally just taking drugs. Taking drugs is them accepting their darkness. That was really disappointing. Because we go from Wonder Girl murdering a guy from her past because, that was the reason her father died, murdering him in her mind games and accepting her darkness. We have Jason murdering Dick and accepting his darkness. Oh, who else is there? And then I think it's just those two then. And then they're just taking drugs. Yeah. That was no. We go from, she's murdering someone to, they're taking drugs. He's murdering someone. And that was, a little anticlimactic. But anyway, the mind games were kind of cool, and how he, like, enslaved the team was, I guess. But then they did, okay. So all of that, and he's enslaving minds and blah, 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 and he basically brings Garfield back from the dead to win Raven's loyalties. And then they defeat him super easily. Like, super easily. So, blah, blah, blah. He crushes Raven's heart into the crystal that goes in her head because she doesn't start with that. Which, I mean, sure, whatever. Crush the heart, make it a crystal, shove it in her forehead, whatever. That's fine. But the fact, it's just, one of the really cool parts about her being the doorway in the animated series was that she just straight up died to bring him over to the Earth, back into our dimension. And then they have to like hunt through hell essentially to bring her spirit back so that they can defeat him. And in this, she doesn't actually die. He just makes her more powerful so that she can rule by his side, which is I'm sure he knows she's the only one that can defeat him, because he would know about the prophecy and everything concerning his situation better than anyone. So he's going to spare the life of his only weakness and make her powerful enough to actually defeat him. So he wasn't exactly smart, because then we have Beast Boy, who super easily brings her back, and then she brings Dick back, and then she just blasts her father into oblivion. It was a super disappointing ending concerning Trigon. Like, that was a very disappointing Trigon. Ridiculously disappointing. I didn't like that Trigon at all. And of course, because it's an Arrowverse show, the CGI wasn't great in this show. It wasn't. So on top of that, Trigon, when he becomes his true form, doesn't even look that great. And them doing all their acrobatics and stuff doesn't look great. And honestly, the best CGI in the entire thing is Beast Boy, who in the show can only turn into a tiger. Like, he can take other forms, but it's super hard for him. Like, he turns into a snake at the end of, excuse me, at the end of season 1, and then a bat at the end of season 3, but otherwise he only turns into a tiger, which is a little disappointing, from like the animated Teen Titans and from Young Justice, what we see of his abilities and all the things he can turn into, and then we just get Tiger Boy. But yeah, Trigon was defeated too easily. He shouldn't have been the first villain that they fight. It was really disappointing. And then they also kind of defeat Slade super easily. I mean, they do a little bit better because he's there throughout the entire season, so you actually get to see how dangerous he is, and you see what he can do, and we get some flashbacks that explain why he's so mad at the Titans. And so they do better with Slade, but they still kind of defeat him super easily. And the ending where they kill him is super anticlimactic. Like, it just happens, and I just, what? Suddenly he's dead. It was super, super anticlimactic. I still like the actor who played Slade, because I kind of like Slade in every version of Slade Wilson, because I really like Slade Wilson. But yeah. I will say one of my favorite characters is Jericho. Even though he only gets like 2 or 3 episodes where he's actually like there and alive, and yeah, he's still he's my sweet bean. I love Jericho. He was really cool, and his power was interesting. And I don't like how they explained Jericho and Rose's powers, because spoiler warning, I thought I was doing pretty good up till this point. Spoiler warning. Because they're Slade's kids. Like, so Slade's son, Jericho, Slade's daughter, like, bastard daughter, Rose. And apparently, because of the experiments that the government did on him to make him a more powerful soldier, somehow that makes Rose able to heal, like, ridiculously well and fast. And Jericho can body snatch. I don't understand how the experiments allow them to do that. when they don't allow Slade to do that? And then does that mean the experiments changed him genetically in order for that to be passed down to them? Because I don't think being experimented on and like changing some of the aspects of like your strength or your stamina would be passed down genetically. Maybe I'm wrong if there are like science geeks that say, no, that's actually possible. But I don't think you can pass something like that down genetically. And yet that's their explanation for Rose and Jericho. Anyway, Rose is also a very unnecessary character. She's kind of annoying, and she doesn't really do anything. She's there to be Jason's love interest, and it's really annoying, because I have gone on rants about how I don't like it when romance is the focus of a series that isn't advertised as a romance series, like in books or in cinema. So when they bring in this character whose like sole purpose is to be Jason's love interest, it really, really annoyed me, because she didn't do anything. And then by the end of the season, we find out she's a spy for her dad, but she didn't really do anything to help her dad, except maybe plant a few sensitive objects around Titan's Tower, which didn't actually do anything except piss off everyone. She was useless and annoying and didn't do anything. And then she never came back. So I think they realized that she was useless because she never made another appearance. Whereas some of the other characters they introduced in season 2 make another appearance, such as Superboy. This is a very disjointed rant, guys. I'm sorry. But Superboy, he comes in and they reference Cadmus, and I like the references. I love all the references. But Superboy is too powerful. Like, he has laser vision and like all the super breath, and it is still uncertain whether he can actually fly or not. And he's too powerful. I love the Young Justice version of Superboy where he's got like half the powers that Superman has. Like he can jump super high. That's the word I'm looking for. He can jump super high. He has super strength and super hearing, and I don't remember. He has X-ray vision. I know he has X-ray vision. But he doesn't have like flight technically, but he doesn't have laser eyes, and he doesn't have all the different super breaths and all of that, which make Superman OP and a little bit as far as my preferences go. And I loved it. It was so good. He made basically the version of Superman that I loved. It was great. And then in Titans, they give him laser vision and all the super breaths and potentially flight. There's a couple times where it's like, oh, can he fly? And then other times where he just jumps, and I'm just like, so does he fly or not? He was too powerful. And then they also brought in Crypto, the Superman dog, which he's kind of a weird character, and they just used him as a plot device. Like when they just needed extra help, it's like, oh yeah, Crypto still exists. Here's Crypto and laser dog eyes and dog that flies, and the CGI on Crypto fighting was so bad. But Crypto was literally just there to be as plot convenience. So whenever they needed extra help, or they just brought him in every once in a while to say, hey, Crypto still exists. Let's use him to save everyone. Yay! I didn't like Crypto. Sorry, but I didn't like Crypto. I mean, I'm fine with Superboy having like a dog or something because he totally would. Honestly, the actor for Superboy did a really good job portraying like that innocent slash uh, darkness thing. He did a good job portraying Superboy, but I didn't like Crypto. Yeah. Anyway. Yes. And then also in season 2 they had the side plot happening at the end where Cadmus brainwashed Connor and Beast Boy. And I guess it does technically tie into the rest of what's happening because Connor escaped Cadmus and they're still chasing him and all that. So like it worked, but I was also almost like, because we had done that and then after Connor escaped we didn't really refer to Cadmus or anything until and then we focused on Deathstroke for a while. So then you kind of put the Cadmus thing out of your mind because like, oh, whatever. I guess they thought he was dead, so they forgot about him. And then he just comes back, and you're, oh, right, that's a thing. So it's a little bit, I don't know. It seemed a little bit sudden, I guess, to me. I don't know how to phrase what I'm trying, my thoughts right now. It wasn't, it was a little bit, what's the word I'm trying to think of? I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore. We're gonna move on before I keep rambling, so I don't keep rambling. Okay. So, I did like Slade Wilson, because I always like Slade Wilson. They brought in Aqualad for one episode because it's a flashback and Aqualad dies. And again, they focused a bunch of the episode on romance, which annoyed me. So yeah, there were definitely moments where it focused way too much on romance. And yeah. But otherwise. Okay. And then season 3. Season 3 probably did the best job handling the villain. Because he is introduced, like, he gets introduced, he's there throughout the entire season, and then it's not this super anticlimactic ending. Like, I feel like the villains got progressively less powerful because we have Trigon, then we have Deathstroke slash Superboy, I guess, and then we have Scarecrow, or Dr. Jonathan Crane slash Red Hood, I guess. But they get progressively less powerful and they get more handled much better throughout the seasons. So if they had like swapped the order and then handled them all the way they handled Crane, it would have been so much better. Anyway, so I liked Red Hood. I know there's a lot of hate for the Titans version of Jason Todd, but I'm just glad Jason Todd's like getting recognition. He's the Robin that gets forgotten pretty much all the time. It's either like Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, or Damian Wayne that people talk about. They don't really talk too much about Jason Todd, at least from my experience. We get hints of him in Young Justice seasons 2 and 4, which I love. And if they do a season 5, I want them to focus on Jason Todd and him remembering and becoming Red Hood, because that would be cool. And, you know, getting an actual backstory, because they never actually explain how he dies in the second season. They just assume everyone who is watching it knows. Which I do know how he dies, but still, they don't explain it. So yeah, I'm just glad. And then I also know there's an animated movie that centers around Red Hood. But other than that, I don't know much about any other, like, shows, movies, whatever, that have Jason Todd in them. So, I mean, honestly, that actor did did Jason Todd pretty well. What I expect from Jason Todd, he did pretty well. But then Red Hood was actually great. I really liked Red Hood. Again, writing is not always the best in these shows. So I give them some grace in that department because sometimes the plot is there, but the writing is not. So I liked Red Hood. He looked cool. He was pretty good. He blows up Hank. Spoiler. So that was honestly a pretty not most brutal, but one of the more brutal episodes. Honestly, season 3 probably gets actually no, I can't say that because in season 1 Raven's out of control and does some dark things. So anyway, season 1 and season 2 are probably the more brutal seasons. Excuse me, season 1 and season 3. Blech, I can't talk. Sorry. Anyway, keep rambling, so it keeps getting longer. Anyway, so Red Hood was good. And Crane did well, and them trying to drug the city, and Jason kind of thinking that they're trying to save it, while Crane's underlying motive is to destroy it, and then them getting at odds and eventually splitting up, which leads to Jason now coming back to kind of being a hero, his own version of a hero, and helping them stop Crane, which is really cool. And yes, we get hints to Lazarus Pit and Ra's al Ghul, which are also cool. Again, the little references are kind of fun. I don't know how much again, it's a different universe, so Bruce Wayne is old, but still, I don't know how I feel about his actor. It like, just like the voice and all that didn't like click with what, you know, you'd normally imagine with like Bruce Wayne and Batman. It didn't quite sound right, I guess. And nothing against the actor, he did a good job, and I don't know if I quite liked him as Bruce Wayne. We also never get to see him as Batman, which I guess he's an old guy now, so, but they keep hinting at him still doing Batman. So that doing Batman sounded kind of weird. Being Batman. They keep hinting at him still being Batman. And yeah, so, but we never get to see him. We see like a silhouette of him in not technically, in Dick Grayson's Mind Game episode. And we get to see some of that, but we don't actually in reality get to see this version of Batman. But whatever, I know the show is supposed to focus on the Titans, but when you spend an entire season in Gotham and it's like, Bruce Wayne is highly involved in all of this, and we don't see Batman. So I don't know. I kind of expected to see Batman at some point, but we didn't. Whatever. It's fine. Anyway. Yes, they handled Crane as a villain way better in this, and kind of showing his like mental breakdown, I guess, as we got to the end of the season, where he goes super sadistic and dismembers a guy a pizza delivery guy. So that's, yeah, and then scars his own face. Yeah, that's lots of things. I think that's everything I have to say about the plot. It's like some of the plot was there, and then the writing wasn't, so it wasn't as good as it could have been, and they handled villains not necessarily the best. So yeah, character designs. I talked a little bit about how much I hate Starfire, and I kind of miss that Garfield is green, and Raven does get better, like her design gets better. She gets the paler skin, and obviously she gets the gem in her head, and then her costume gets much better in season 3. Like the hood thing that she wears in season 1 looks so doofy. It looks so dorky, but her costume gets better. Other than that, like Robin's out, like his suits and like Aqualad and Wonder Girl and the Hawk Their suits were good. Dove's was cool, but I feel like the design, like her cape was a little weird and seemed more cumbersome than anything else. But anyway, yes. I will say in season 3 they got rid of the stakes a little bit because they found the Lazarus pit, so they brought Dick back from the dead, and then they brought like an entire portion of the city back from the dead. That whole plan with the Lazarus pit was a little far-fetched to me. But yeah, they brought back several thousand people with the Lazarus pit, turning it into a rainstorm. That didn't I don't know. That didn't quite work for me. It was a little weird, and it took away the stakes of that. And then we also have Tim Drake and Wonder Girl come back from the dead. First, Wonder Girl's death was super anticlimactic. Like, she got electrocuted, and then suddenly she's just dead. Like, it took me a second to realize, oh, she's dead. Like, leading up to, like, oh, one of them is gonna die. It's either Dove or one of the others, because this whole thing is collapsing, and Dove saving the citizens, and then Wonder Girl dies, but it takes you a second to go like, oh wait, no, she's actually dead. It doesn't seem like she would die. Like, this I think was a little bit on the actress. She didn't quite do her own character's death justice. It didn't quite translate that her character was dying. But anyway, they just come back from the dead, and I'm just glad that they didn't bring Hank back too, because that would have just destroyed all the stakes all the time, and everyone who was dead would be back, and to heck with death. But no, they at least kept one character dead. Everyone else came back though, which was a little bit disappointing. I always would have preferred if, like, Wonder Girl had stayed dead and they just helped Tim come back, because, like, it's Tim Drake. He's gonna come back because he's supposed to be the next Robin. And anyway, there were cool things in this series, and then there were not great things. So if I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, it would probably fall on a 2. Maybe a 2.5, because the things I didn't like, I really didn't like. Like Blackfire. I didn't like Blackfire. They gave her a redemption arc, which I didn't like. Like, she didn't act quite like Deathfire. Blackfire, just like none of the Tamaranians, like, none of them are right. Anyway, but Blackfire didn't act quite like Blackfire, and then she gets a redemption arc, and I didn't like it. And then they have a whole thing where Starfire doesn't actually have these fire powers. They're actually Blackfires, and she has something else going on. That was that was a subplot in the 3rd season that I didn't like. Like, what the heck is happening? And then on top of that, Blackfire and Connor become a thing, and I don't like it. I hate it with a burning passion. Why was this a thing? Why was this made into a thing? I get that he's one of the only characters to actually kind of accept her when she comes back, because he kind of understands what it's like to have a dark side to him, because he's half Lex Luthor, but that doesn't mean they need to be romantic partners. Just because he is the first one to go, hey, I know the least about you, so I'm going to accept you, whereas everyone else knows all the crap you've done, so they're going to take so much longer to trust you and get used to you. That doesn't mean that he's in love with her. Whatever happened to really good platonic friendships? What happened to platonic relationships? They don't exist anymore. It's like everyone ships everything because they can, and they think, oh, they're really loyal. Or whatever other reason that they have, and there's like, okay, so now they're a ship. They must be must be in some sort of romantic relationship or whatever else. Like, no! Have you ever heard of a platonic relationship? It exists. Some of these people that you're shipping are the kind of relationship I have with my best friend. No! I could rant for days about this, but I will leave it at that. Shipping is out of control in pretty much all fandoms, and the existence of platonic relationships has kind of been forgotten. I really miss good friendships. Like, whether it's between the same gender or two different genders, I really miss just good friendships that don't have to turn into anything else. Anyway, this was an entertaining show. There was more romantic stuff than I would have liked, and some of it didn't make any flippin' sense. There were plot points that I liked. There were subplots that I hated. They handled villains not so great, and then fine. So I liked all the references. I liked that Jason Todd got a little bit of love, even though the writing may not have done the character justice. Any of the characters justice. And Starfire and all the Tamaranians are my least favorite characters. Those are my thoughts on Titans. Feel free to leave yours in the comments, along with any reactions you have to any of my opinions, any of your own opinions. What do you think of this show? Have you watched this show? Am I ranting and you don't give a crap? Anyway. Oh. Anyway. Yes. Leave your thoughts in the comments. And I will see you all next time.